It was a 40,000 ton tanker, the Gallant Colour Cotronus. She'd run aground on an island called Aldebaran, just inside the Straits of Gibraltar, just through Gibraltar. And she'd run up the beach, full speed. And she had 35 tanks, and there were about eight tanks out of the 35 that were watertight. So basically we had to keep it floating on compressed air. We had 6 compressors running 24/7, just pumping it full of air to keep it afloat. Towed it into Gibraltar. They wouldn't accept it. Said no. So the insurance company said, oh well, take it out in the Atlantic, sink it. The company owner that owned the ship, he was on board the Lloydsman with us. And he said, do what you want. He just gave us the keys to everything on the ship. We salvaged it. And that was it, you know. A ship, especially if you've been on it a while, is a living entity. You know what I mean? And apart from the fact that you've got to take a chance once it's gone below the waves that it's actually sank, because a lot of them can just go below the surface and sit there. So the last thing you do is steam across it, and if it ain't sunk, you're going with it.
Yeah, I was on the Swan River, and one of older brothers, and I was coming up. We was on our way home from Argentina, and was heading for the Cape Verde Islands to bunker. That means get oil on board for the engine and to get us home. And we was about 100 miles off, and that's when I got told to do that job, 11 o'clock at night, because he said there was a lot of trawlers around. We didn't want to get the log line wrapped in their nets. But I never saw any trawlers anyhow. But I threw the hook, the grappling hook, slipped, and went about 40 foot into the water. And the biggest concern going down, my reactions was that quick. The propeller. You don't realise when you're in that water how big a propeller is on a ship. Getting sucked in. And I was trying to swim to get away from it. Let the ship go past me. And it did. Out of sight. And I thought, it's going to be a tough one to get out of this.
The class system within the Merchant Navy was sort of a miniature version of what was going on in the whole of society.
Right.
With the sailorship days, obviously there was no engineers or anything like that, so it was just deckhands and officers. Also they had the Marines on board.
Yeah.
On certain ships, you know what I mean, to protect the ships. Because we always joke with the Royal Navy. They say they're the oldest service, we say we're the oldest service, because she was created to protect British interests of shipping.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's sad what's happened to the Merchant Navy. Even after the Second World War, we still had one of the biggest merchant navies in the world. And in the First World War, I think it was 90% of all cargoes in the world was carried on British ships.
Why do you see that? Why do you think it? Where was the origin, the demise of it? Where did it end? Why do you think it
ended? The demise seemed to start when we went into the European Union.
So when we dump the garbage every night in these big black bags, which are, you have to dump them at night so they weren't spotted, you know, and we shoot them. And then this big Irish sergeant, who was my best buddy, he said, I want your lads to become quite good with guns, and we'd take a gun in the mess room, strip it down, put it back together, fill a magazine, arm it, and use it. And machine guns, we got them at times. Gympis, general purpose machine guns, we got to use them. And we were quite good, and they concentrated on our lads. Of course the stewards had a gun, even the stewardesses were shooting. But the trick was, I didn't realise, when they went to show and did the business and when they came back, the sergeant says to me, do you realise why we taught your lads to be quite good with the old shooters? I said, no, I thought it was just a camaraderie thing. He says, no, I said, if we'd have lost, you would have had to defend yourselves.
It was about 10 days before Christmas, and I joined the ship. She sailed about 5 days before Christmas. The weather was absolutely terrible. I'd never been to sea in my life. We got to Span Point, we had to ease the engines in, the North Sea was that bad, and went all the way round to New York. We was doing New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Norfolk in Virginia, then back home again. I lived for about 8 days on dry cream crackers and orange juice. I just so I could vomit something, you know. I've never, from that day to this, been able to take sugar in my tea. Anyway, we got to New York, did Baltimore, Philadelphia, Norfolk, and back home. And homeward bound, the weather was just as bad, but I'd got over the seasickness. And I used to just get headaches. But they said it was known as the Western Ocean Route. They said if you did more than one trip on the Western Ocean, then you was a seaman. I did 2 years.
First trip on a trip had to be a Christmas trip.
Oh, God, all right. How did your family feel about that? Were you?
They were all right, because I come from a family of seamen.
Yeah.
Well, my brothers didn't have Christmas at home for 20 years.
Coming from Hull, ending up in the furthest outreaches of the world.
Yeah.
And by chance meeting your brother.
Well, I met my other brother on the Livorno in Malta, and he was on the Palermo, the sister ship.
And then did you get time really to meet and have a drink with him?
Yeah, you used to get an half day every week, a half day.
Yeah.
Either a Saturday or a Sunday. Then I met my brother again. He was in Southampton. There was a gay bar called the Horse and Groom. So he was coming out and his mob was coming in. He was on the Oriana, the one that cab was on, and with a load of Hull lads. And we had a few drinks and we come back on board the camera and we had a party. So I've met my brother twice.
And we was only supposed to be in Japan for about 4 or 5 days with the sugar. But about a week before we got into Japan, we ran into what they call, it was a typhoon, Typhoon Judy. And we got a lot of damage done to us. And we finished up, we was in Japan for 2.5 months, for repairs and one thing and another. And when we left Japan, nobody knew where we was going, we just headed out to sea. And it got whittled down, we was either going to Seattle in America or to New Zealand for wool. And as it happened, we went to Australia for pig iron, and then down to Australia for wool. So you spent I was away for nearly a year on that ship.
Most ships, if you signed on a ship, you signed for 2 years, articles. And you couldn't, if that ship stayed out for 2 years, you could only pay off if you came to a port in England or you was out somewhere and they had to send you home then. In the hot weather you could get 2 cans of beer. So what we used to do was save them 2 cans up. It was very hard to do when you was in 40 degrees of heat, you know what I mean? But we did. Kept it in the cook used to keep it in his freeze. And then on Saturday night we'd all get together in the cabin and have a laugh, Somebody would say, oh, it's my birthday, and the steward might work as a bottle of rum or whiskey or whatever.
When you were at port, did you not go?
Well then, get your money and away you go.
I worked for, he's a German, Alex Schmitz, and he was a tough. And he was the man who went out with that supply ship, and you know, and with the cameras to locate the Gaul, a big stern fisher from Hull, and it went down off the Norwegian coast, and I thought it was the Russians that had sunk it. But then there was bad weather, and he came with the ship himself, and he's a smashing bloke to work for.
And then applied to join the Vindicattrix Sea School, based in, as I said, Sharpness in Gloucestershire. And it's adjacent to the River Severn. And the village, of course, Sharpness, is still there today. It's a very exclusive club. And the 70,000 lads went through the school over many years, and that's where a lot of the lads started in the Merchant Navy. Only ratings, only catered for the ratings. The officers and the engineers come from a different source. I went to a Merchant Navy meeting in Liverpool, and you identify yourself with your discharge book number, and I was made welcome. And one of the scousers there, he said to me, "You don't happen to be a Vindy lad by any chance?" So I said, "Yes, I am." I had to tell him when I was there and what familiar things you would only know by being at the school. Once I'd established that, I was welcome and I didn't have to pay for another drink.
Left school, went straight down to sea school, did 10 weeks training, come home.
Where was you training?
Gravesend, Kent. Did 10 weeks down there. Come home. Was on about 3 weeks, and then went on down the pole. First ship they were going to send me on was going to Vietnam, so first trips weren't allowed it. Second one, third one was both going to Vietnam, both tankers, all 3 tankers. The next one was the one I got, was one of Everard's, coastal tanker. We did Bart Nichols to Rotterdam. I was on it for 3 months.